You're listening to Top Line Toronto with Nick Lynham, Brady Ricketts, and Jordan Voth.
Welcome back to another episode of the Top Line Toronto Maple Leafs. I am joined, as always, by my much more sunny disposition brother or bearded brethren, Mr. Jordan Voth. How are we doing on this fine day?
I'm good. How are you, Brady?
Not too bad, much better. I think I think we're gonna have a much sunnier disposition, like I said, this week relatively to last week, because we finally are not a basement dweller, not in the standings, but in the power play rankings. So we can jump right into it really quick. As of right now, as recording, the Toronto Maple Leafs are second in the Atlantic with a 9-5-2 record. And we're going to start it off with where we left it last week with our little prediction of the game of the Minnesota Wild. And they come out of that one with a 2-1 OT loss, still get a point on it. Power play finally is, kind of a factor
that's
in
the
that
big
one.
one.
They get the only goal for the Leafs.
Yeah, and it was just even with the loss, like it was on a back-to-back against a very good team in Minnesota. But even just getting a power play goal and getting off the schneid like that was huge for that team. And we recorded just before that game, but you and I we were not happy with what we were seeing. We were looking at a dead last power play and, a complete loss of the season series against Berube's former team. It wasn't good. It was looking ugly. And then, the mini game happened and, it was we kind of predicted that it wouldn't go well. But for the power play to finally click was huge. And then we got the big news on Tuesday that Auston Matthews wasn't going to be there, which we had no idea of as of last week's recording. And if you'd have told me that last week the Leafs were going to lose Auston Matthews, they were going to cobble together a first line, and their special teams were going to make them go perfect on the week, I would have laughed at you.
You'd look like the crazy person in the room. But so it's kind of funny how every time Auston Matthews doesn't score at I don't know, a 2 per game pace, it's always he's got to be injured. And at times, I sit there and I'm like, I don't know, like he's definitely getting good looks. He's playing good hockey. Like maybe it's just the puck's not going in. And sure as shit, every time he's actually hurt, because that's just how good he is. That the only time he can't score is when is when he's hurt.
That's how good he is that when he's hurt, he scores at a 40-goal pace.
I know, it's so dumb. Yeah, when he's hurt, he's at a 40 goal. But yeah, so it's nice to see in that Minnesota game for sure, like setting kind of the tone that would be consistent for the rest of the week on the power play, that it would just go on an absolute tear without the best goal scorer on the team. So they go into Tuesday, Boston, 4-0 win there. Like Father was saying, pregame news was that Auston Matthews would not be dressing this game. Since then, he was considered day-to-day. He has since been retroactively added to the IR. It started on November 3rd. So as of right now, if he is healthy enough, he can be reinstated back in the lineup. It doesn't sound from some of the conversations that we had with the media, with Brad Treliving and Craig Berube, that he will be in the lineup for the Tuesday game against Ottawa. Still working on some stuff. I think at this point too, it's still such an early season. The sample sizes of everything are still relatively small. Like in 1 week, we went from last place power play percentage to now we're top half of the league again in a week. And it's just how small it is and how early the season is. So let him get his rest to, be a force again and not let. I think another problem with Auston Matthews over the course, I remember a couple seasons ago, he started the season off hurt, and that was a season where I think he only scored 40. Like it was apparent the very first game against Dallas, he got hurt, and it stuck with him throughout the whole season.
It's almost kind of infuriating that, they didn't just rest him to start the season. Guys, you have enough data on what this team does without him in the lineup. You know you can weather these storms. Why on earth are you even putting him on the ice if he's not 100% ready to go? This is your franchise player, your captain. Why do you do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's almost like a thing where maybe it is so minor that it can go away, and then just the way, how many minutes in the type of play he was playing this year, a bit more two-way, it just, I don't know, kept nagging or getting a little bit worse to a point where you know what, might as well just do it now.
It's just not. I would say like anytime that guy doesn't come into the building saying he feels 110% good, don't put
Yeah.
him on the ice. He's too important to that team. You're
Hmm.
gonna need him at his very, very, very top of his best game ever come
Hmm.
April. And if you can't get that out of him because you decided that having him on game 7 of the season was too important, like, come on.
I understand it. There's also like we know with professional athletes, it's not just a symptom of the NHL. There's a difference between these guys playing hurt and playing injured. I mean, there was on so the Detroit game that which we'll get into in a little bit. That was the Hall of Fame game where they celebrate the new class of players, builders, executives that are going into the Hockey Hall of Fame this year. And one person that they highlighted going into the Hockey Hall of Fame this year was Shea Weber, and
Yeah.
they had I guess it would be in a press conference more or less, but media was talking to the guys, and Shea Weber was describing the injuries that he played throughout that last Montreal Cup run. And he played with like what 2 torn tendons in his thumbs. His knee was destroyed, a bunch of shit. And like everyone on Twitter I saw was kind of celebrating, like, man, look how tough this guy was playing through those massive injuries, without
But it was the
regarding the fact
last.
that he's never played again since that because of those same injuries.
Yeah, it was
So
the
like,
last hockey he ever played, and
yeah,
now Montreal, take a look at your blue line. You
I don't
telling
know
me
if
you
he'd
couldn't?
still be kicking around, but like
You
at
telling me
this
you couldn't
point,
use a
like,
veteran leader on that blue line? Good lord, that blue line
yeah,
is.
but
I think Montreal's going to be a good team, but that blue line hurts right now for them.
I totally see where there's like this idea of, if you have a bump or a bruise, you're going to play through it 100%. But when you have debilitating injuries, take the time. So I'm glad that at early, like now, more so if we were talking about this, in the dog days of like January, February, that he's taking that rest. Like, why didn't we do this earlier? 100%.
Right.
Um, but more to the game itself, it was a
Okay.
continuation for the power play from that Minnesota power play goal. They get like 3 power play goals and empty netter. Secure a 4-0 win. Stolar's fantastic again.
Morgan
A
Riley.
little, I mean, don't look too hard now, but Leafs are actually top 5 in the league for saves above expected. Currently, actually being the Winnipeg Jets in that regard. If you look at Jay Fresh's, not anyone else's. I don't know why there's such a huge discrepancy. Morgan Riley with with a 3-point performance. Matt Knies, unbelievable start again. Adds another goal, and the Leafs finally break the regular season slump against the Bruins, which I think was at like 8 games now. What's your perspective that we got going on that one?
Okay, I want to give you that, but I want to go back to we're talking about playing injuries with players. When you have a problem with your car,
Mm-hmm.
do you put it on the road and keep driving it and take pride in the fact that you're like putting long-term risk to your vehicle because you're riding it broken? Because you need to look at these players like they're assets, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're important assets to your business, to your organization. And
Mm-hmm.
when you do that to them, you run the risk of doing damage to them long term and then having to pay them when they can't play for you for a long period of time, like Shea Weber.
Yes.
I've never heard somebody get into their car and be like, ah, fuck, I'm like 100,000 clicks past an oil change, but look at this baby go. Like, no, nope,
You'd
like,
be you'd be shocked.
but treat, like, just, I'm begging the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Leafs are always super secretive about that stuff. They never want to tell you
Yes.
what it is. That's fine. But if Auston Matthews is not 110% good to go, let him have the night off, especially at
Yeah.
game 1 through 30. The game, like, just don't do this. On to the
100%.
Boston thing. I was elated to see the Bruins finally lose at the hands of the Leafs. I enjoyed it. The evening took a really, really dark turn later, but up until that point, it was a fantastic evening.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Riley with 3 points, the power play clicking again. It just, what more could you ask for as a Leafs fan? What more do you need from a Tuesday night?
Yeah, and in the last recording too, I said like that Boston game would be the perfect time for the power play to reignite
Yep.
itself and get something going. And that was before we even knew Austin Matthews was injured.
Yep.
So to have that both those factors, you know, more so the power play than Austin Matthews play a factor in the game. It's exactly what you needed to happen. So then they get a couple days off. Then, like I was saying, Hall of Fame celebration game against the Red Wings. Another game with 2 power play goals for the Leafs, and then again, it makes a difference in the overall outcome.
They're
And once
yeah,
again, Auston Matthews still not in the lineup for that one.
they won on special teams this week. Like that's
Mhm.
what carried them through this week.
Big time.
I know
Especially
we'll
with
get
someone like
into
Auston Matthews out, you're going to take especially on that top line, you're going to take a massive hit on the 5-on-5 play and the 5-on-5 chances
yep,
to
and we're gonna get into that.
outscore those. Yeah, to outscore those issues with the power play that was middling at best.
Yep,
Exactly what you need at the right time.
yep, and then we go to Detroit and we
Mm-hmm.
play a really low event game, but
Mm-hmm.
they win. Power play comes through again. Morgan Riley putting points on the board. What's he up to? 12 points in 16 games?
Yeah, with 6 points coming this week alone.
Yeah. Mitch Marner on pace for 102 points.
He's
John
always hovering
Tavares.
around there. He's got to just keep putting the like we say it every year. There is a week that happens where Mitch Marner like makes the argument for himself that he can drive a line outside of playing with Auston Matthews.
Yeah.
You know, the 5-on-5 numbers with Max Domi playing up there aren't what you'd want them to be.
They're a dip.
Um,
It's a dip.
yeah, but that's also Auston Matthews is a great two-way center that definitely drives that. But with how well Marner plays sometimes without Matthews, it almost makes the argument for itself to see if you can be a bit more
If you can
creative in that lineup to see what you can kind of unlock at other guys as well. Because there's more guys that, especially in the bottom six, I'm not saying play Mitch Marner in the bottom six, but I think you can get a bit more creative, see if you can get a guy off a Schneid and, on the right step moving forward in the next month as well.
Yep. And it's not just him too, right? Like William
Mm-hmm.
Nylander is playing excellent right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's carrying a line himself. He's doing an unbelievable job. And John Tavares is, he heard us talking shit last week, and yeah. Well, yeah, I guess he only heard me because you
You only
refuse.
heard you. I refuse to besmirch my good man.
Yeah. No.
But I think he's right now at 15 points in 16 games.
Yeah.
For a guy every year for the last, I don't know, 4 since he signed that deal, every year is supposed to be the year that he completely drops off a cliff. But he finds a way to make contributions. Like you're never gonna see John Tavares just outspeed anyone on the ice at this point. Like it's
No.
never been a part of his game. But what he is very good at is adapting to what's going on the ice and adapting to find a way to to make contributions. He's basically like, in my eyes, a high skill grinder.
Yeah. Like he's kind of a dairy farmer out there. Like he just works, and his work ethic is
Yeah.
always like. I
It's
never
never been a
question his
question.
work. It's never been a question of that. It's always been the foot speed, right? Like even in his draft year, people talked about his foot speed. So
Mhm.
John Tavares, 14 points in 15 games I have down here. Mitch Marner on pace for 100, and Morgan Riley with 12 points in 16 games. And the power play carries them to 3 wins this week.
Absolutely.
The makeshift first line, which is Domi, Knies, and Marner, sporting a 44% expected goals rate, which is what you would expect. Like even with Auston Matthews not at 100%, every time he goes on the ice, he tilts the ice for his team.
Yeah.
And with subbing him out for Domi, you see that kind of go the other way. And
Yeah.
in Domi's credit, like he's playing above his head right now on a first line.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
44%, that's actually not that bad. They're very lucky though that this week their specialty teams stepped in and picked up the load that line couldn't carry this week, right? So
I think it just fully solidifies how important it is to have like that cornerstone 1C in any organization, because like those guys can be complete play drivers.
yeah,
Besides someone
absolutely.
like Mark Stone, who's a complete unicorn on the wing, being a 5-on-5 menace.
Yep. You know what is funny though is to watch this team, like, and there's been a lot of talk now about how the Leafs might be better with Matthews out and whatever. I still see it as like a team that kind of has like the yips a bit. Like, there was another moment this season that kind of highlighted it for me when Dennis Hildeby went in and played his first game against the Devils. Now, the Devils are a good team. I think most people would agree. And Hildeby went in, played his first ever NHL game, and you could see the whole team just kind of like pull their heads out of their asses and dial in and play a very focused game because they knew they didn't want to hang the first timer out to dry. And I think you kind of see that this week. I think you see them all kind of do the same thing with Auston Matthews out of the lineup. Oh, he's not here. We all need to like buck up and do a little bit better of a job. And they do that. Mm-hmm. What I think is really, really important is I think as you get into April, you need to be able to channel what they're doing this week and continue it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want Auston Matthews to come back into the lineup and Max Domi just be like, okay, I'm the third line center now. It's not on me. No, like, you all need to continue pushing and this high level of play.
1,000%. It should be at like when you were getting close to that playoff time in April. I think I see what you're saying is that like you shouldn't need to have a shock in your system to elevate your play like that just because you need it to.
You want those habits.
Like, you want that to be your normal water level at all times.
Yeah, you need to develop those habits, and I think Craig Berube that's what he's working on. Is he's trying to get this team to habitually show up and play at a high level. And in the past, for several different coaches and GMs, that's been an issue with this team.
1,000%. It's something that like I don't even know. We've had this conversation a few times already this year. Like to me, it has never come across the last couple of years as an X and O's issues for the Toronto Maple Leafs, or even necessarily a skill one. It's purely almost a motivational difference that needs to happen. And so far I haven't been unimpressed with Craig Berube and how he's been able to go about it, but there's still a lot more work that can be done. 1,000%.
It's almost like an immaturity thing. Like when they were young players in the league, it was just like, oh, they're immature and like, they had a brain fart. It's like a dog that, has an accident in your house when it's a puppy. But as the team's gotten older, it's just become more and more frustrating that they still do it. It's not like I read Nazem Kadri's book a few weeks ago or whenever it came out, and he said like, you can dislike Mike Babcock all you want, but there was never a shortage of preparation. He said he was the most prepared coach that he ever played for. Like just in terms of strategy,
at his job.
Oh, complete dickhead. Everything like that's a whole other conversation, and I it's not worth going there, but like apparently as far as coaching and being behind the bench as a coach, as prepared as they come. So I think it's fair to include him and Keefe and now Berube in that line of coaches that have tried to get this group to dial in, and sometimes they haven't been able to get the group to do that. So that's something that I think is of utmost importance for this team, is to see how they respond, how they dial in, and how they get to that place and stay there. Yep. So that takes us over to Saturday's game against Montreal.
Another back-to-back. Feels like that's such a common theme in the early portion of this season.
It's funny. I left night one of the season. I had Montembeault and Hellebuck in net for fantasy. And I thought I saw history repeating itself. So I was like, I'm going to leave Montembeault in there and enjoy 2 shutouts. And the Leafs pulled their heads out of their ass and did that.
Finally. Like I think it's kind of been a theme over the last couple of years too. Like I've noticed this a little less with the Craig Berube system, minus Columbus game, but that's a whole kind of its own, issue, is playing down to some of the bottom feeders of the NHL. Like I think last year was a case that if the Leafs literally went 500 against the bottom half of the league, they would have been, I think, first in the Atlantic, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that's correct. Because they kept dropping games to like teams they had no business dropping
losing
them
to. And then they were world eating teams that were in the top half of the league.
Yeah.
But so we go into Montreal back-to-back. Montreal's in Toronto, I think, actually. So special teams, again, a major factor in this one. 2 power play goals. and a shorthanded goal. And the only 5-on-5 goal for either teams last night or that night was Connor Timmins, who gets his first of the night. And that's another storyline that we can talk about. Connor Timmins has been fantastic so far in his early time getting a full-time role right now.
You've been a bit of a Timmins truther over the years too, hey?
Like, I have always been looking outside of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization for a good puck moving right hand defenseman because we've never truly had a good one, or like it's been a deficit that we've had. I thought that we had one, Timmy Liljegren. I still think that at the end of the day, and when we look at this trade in hindsight, it's not going to be Timmy Liljegren rejuvenating his career somewhere else. It's going to be a lack of talent recognition, and I think
we'll give you your moment for Lily Watch later.
Yeah, but that's to say, like,
Ryan Reeves picked up a point on that
I did
too.
like Connor Timmins before he was a Leaf. I did like the trade when it was made, and I'm liking to see the return on what I thought was maybe a little bit lackluster in his first initial few stints in the lineup. But him kind of carving out a role for himself. He's been better on the defensive side of the puck too, which I think really helps his case to not come out of the lineup when someone like Joni Hakanpää inevitably makes a return to the NHL. In what capacity and what form, I got no idea. We don't know how his knee's going to hold up. We don't even know what he's at right now.
I don't think you can take him out of the lineup. He's played too well. You can't say that. You can't have like this, merit-based reward system for players and be like, oh, you have to be good on both sides of the puck, and then have a guy like Timmins come out and play as well as he has, and then take him out of the lineup for Joni Hakanpää, who, like you said, we just have no idea where he's at, what he's going to be able to bring. Like, this guy's basically like a defensive version of John Klingberg at this point. Like, he's like he should not, if he comes out of the lineup, I'm gonna have some thoughts on that.
1,000%. Like, right now, I think Connor Timmins, I'm trying to pull it up very quickly, but I'm pretty sure Connor Timmins is outscoring his on ice minutes 7-0 so far. And he's playing third pairing roles. Sorry. There it is. So right now his main partner has been Simon Benoit. They have a Corsi for percentage of 46.56% at the moment. Not the best. Am I looking at the right one? I guess I am. Yeah, I was wrong. So they have 4 goals for against 2 against with that pairing. 66% goals for percentage with an expected goals for percentage of 40% right now, which actually isn't great at all. And they've played 133 minutes together. But
Simon Benoit hasn't been on the ice for a goal against in like 7 games. So yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what you're shaking up this decor to be at all. Like, again, and that kind of goes back to what I've been saying about the Leafs is that they keep obsessing over keeping the puck out of the net to a point where it's like, hey, like, now you're trying to stuff this guy in, and there's nobody on that decor I would take out for Joni Hakanpää. I would leave it the way it is.
Yeah, until someone needs to come out. But like right now, their PDO, Connor Timmins and Simon Benoit, is at a 1.034, so it's a little bit high. Their on-ice save percentage is 96.67, so I would expect definitely like at some point a bubble to burst on that side. I think Leafs have been 5-on-5 play right now. This week, especially without Auston Matthews, has been held up by some really stellar goaltending in the tandem of Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. I mean, we had an iconic moment with Anthony Stolarz holding up a puck with his bare hand in the Red Wings game. And then
that was terrifying.
To follow that up next night, Joseph Woll, another fantastic game out of him too. The only goal against him is a power play goal that gets batted out of the air that he's really got no shot on, because who knows how that goes. But yeah, I've been really, really impressed with those two so far this year. Very impressed.
They've been outstanding. Remember how bad last year it was with Samsonov? Like, he was unplayable.
They were, that last year was the year he got sent down the AHL for like, a reset essentially, right? And I've also lightly seen some clips of him with some lowlights in the Vegas jersey so far, just misplaying pucks and doing some wild shit. But that's
That's gonna happen.
That's a
That's gonna
yeah.
happen to Anthony Stolarz too. That guy he's a little scary when he gets out of his crease.
He also just love. You notice how many times he just ditches his stick? I
Oh
find
yeah,
it hilarious.
wasn't that a big thing with Matt Murray like 2 years ago? Like there were refs getting
Mm,
on him for constantly dropping his stick, or no, it was
no,
pushing the net
he was
off.
getting in trouble for pushing the net off.
It was pushing the
Yeah.
net off. Yeah, yeah. Good times.
So, I guess that kind of wraps us up for the games that were. We can talk about
Yeah.
some of the kind of overarching stuff that we've seen so far this year, and then get into the week ahead. So, like we spoke up on last week, the Leafs power play was in dead last. Now, and this kind of speaks to how fresh the season still is, how fast 1 week can change a complete, narrative on statistics. You go
Yep.
from dead last, I think it was a 7.9%. And now they have one good week going quite a tear, and you're in the top half. I think they're ranked 14th right now. I think you might have had it. It was around 18% right now. And like, I haven't noticed a huge crazy difference. I really think they just needed a stroke of good luck to really get the ball moving. It does seem maybe a touch more free flowing visually. It doesn't, and this might be a case of not having Auston Matthews on it too, because you know where that puck's gonna cycle through on that power play initially. It's gonna be one of Mitch Marner or Auston Matthews, with the shot likely come from Auston Matthews.
Yep.
I thought I noticed a bit more of individual flair and flash in the power play this week too, with Will Nylander making a play, especially in the Montreal game. Really a solo move from the neutral zone into the offensive zone, making one move, beating Lane Hudson and finding the back of the net. It's been a lot more fun to watch, especially when you realize, knowing that they're likely going to capitalize this week. So that was fun to watch.
Like Nylander, I thought that goal was Nylander kind of dog walking Hudson a little bit. Like, he's such a young player, and he's like, he's going to be a really good player in this league, but that's just an experienced, talented player kind of taking you for a ride there. I think the power play
as like a supercharged Jake Gardner.
He does. Yeah. Like he's going to refine his game, and he's going to be a really good defenseman for them, but like that decor that has like Caden Gooley on it and Lane Hudson, like it's a young decor. They're dead last in the league right now. They're currently dogging for Hoggins, or coming up shorter for Porter, whatever you think of that race. But yeah, but that's a team you should beat. And
yeah, at this point in the season, yeah.
So nice to see the power play kind of click and carry them through a week where they didn't have their best player. Their goaltending has been really, really good. I think the power play does benefit a little bit from like that shock of not having Auston Matthews there. I'm not going to go as far as to say they're better off without him, but
no.
I think when you take him away from that unit, all of a sudden things look a lot different, right? And now you have to rethink how you're doing it. And obviously this week it really worked for them. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add on these on the week that was, or any other themes you're noticing?
So I would like to kind of mention that there's a lot of talk when it comes to the playoffs and teams that succeed about like combined PK and PP percentage. That's usually around 100% or 110%. So right now, the Leafs, I just found it, the season-long power play is 20.8%, and their PK is at 83.9%. So the PK is at 9th in the league, and the power play is now ranking 14th. So combined total on that one would be 104 point something percent, which is right where you kind of want it to be, right smack middle in between the 100 110. So it's no shock to me then that if that's a consistent way, or a consistent direction forward throughout the season, they're going to win majority of those games, and hopefully we don't see the same kind of woes in the playoffs for the power play that really sunk this team more so than depth scoring, in my opinion. That's really what lets this team lose out. The one playoff round that we have seen them win, it was because they had a power play running at about the same 20% consistency. Less so than a third or fourth line guy scoring 4 goals in a series for us.
Yeah. Like that's been a story for them for so many runs. And like you said, the one round that they won, the power play actually did click.
Mhm.
You need your power play to work.
Yeah.
You can't lose the special teams battles. You got to come out ahead there. And with that much talent and that much money committed to scoring forwards, you should be expecting those kind of results. So it is, it went from 7.9% to what'd you say, 20 point something,
20.8 is what I have marked down here.
which is just
And like the
illustrating how
PK
small
still,
the sample is.
yeah. And like I think there's something to be said about the job that Lane Lambert has done with the PK right now. So
Yep.
far this season, I'm loving what I see. Anytime there's a PK on the bench, he's standing up on the wood, you know, yelling, directing, pointing. I love that kind of passion out of my guys. I need to see more of it, and the results are paying off too for that one. A couple of notes that I do want to make mention of that I would like to see some progression forward on. Right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're 5-on-5 expected goals against. It's 12th right now at 2.31. These are all from JFresh too, so you might get some variety across different websites that you look at. JFresh is the one on Twitter that I see all the time, so that's the one I kind of usually follow. And they're 16th right now in expected goals for 5-on-5 with 2.43. So they are winning technically that battle at 0.1 over 60. I would like to see, especially as Craig Berube gets a bit more structured in the room itself. I would like to see those 5-on-5 numbers really start to increase because we know that this team can play really great 5-on-5 minutes, and Sheldon Keefe under his guidance was always winning the 5-on-5 minutes quite healthily. I think almost at like 55% team wide. So I need to see more of that. Right now, I think what we're seeing is kind of a bend not break mentality when it comes to the goaltending and how well they've been playing and even the defensive pairings. Yeah, I think there's absolute room for improvement. Very happy to see what's gone with the progression of the power play and the PK. PK more so season long has been great. Power play this week has been great. I want to see it continue on that, but elevate the 5-on-5 play, especially when someone like Auston Matthews is back in the lineup.
I was gonna say that I think you should see that 5-on-5 play tick up when
At
a
least for the
healthy
top
Auston
line.
Matthews. I can't believe that they put him in this early in the season, not 100%.
Yeah.
To me that's infuriating. It's also like
Yeah.
not fair to him too, right? Like he's out there playing games and we're all looking at him being like, this guy's only on pace for 30 goals. Like what the hell's going on? Like
I,
it's just
it's like one thing to be like it's not fair to him. He's also the one at the end of the day who gets to make the decision whether he's in the lineup or not if he's feeling good enough to play. Like there's a lot of times where medical staff have to hold guys back and be like, you cannot play at all. Like even look at Matt Knies in that playoff in
yeah,
the
the
two
broken
seasons ago where he was
sternum.
playing with a broken fucking sternum, couldn't even dress himself. Brady
Yeah.
Kachuk, his brother, is
Yeah,
buttoning
but
up his shirt to go to the arena, and they're letting him
Brady,
play in the playoffs.
what was on the line in those games?
The Stanley Cup, but at that
What's
point,
on the
that guy's
line
playing
here
at
and what's on the line right now?
is nothing. I understand. I understand.
Nothing.
I understand. But these guys are wired completely different than you and I. They are the most competitive people in the entire planet. All professional athletes are. They want to be the best. They want to prove that they're good. They
I
will.
know, but
They're.
somebody
It's like a
has to be the
dog and a
adult in the
bone. You gotta
room.
keep the. You gotta hold them back at a
Yeah,
certain point.
somebody has to be the adult in the room here. Like that just makes no
Yeah,
sense to be putting
and
him
that.
on the ice
Yeah,
and in harm's way for game 7 or game whatever it is, 12. Like it
15,
just
16, something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
like what are we doing here? That's
1,000%.
frustrating. That's
And that's why teams
frustrating to
hire
hear.
medical staffs and doctors to tell these guys, like, no, you're not good enough to go right now. Because if you let
Yep.
these guys make the decision every night, I guarantee most of them would play at 50% just because they want to. They love the
Yeah,
game
of
that
course.
much.
Of course.
Unless your name's Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, I don't think he enjoys playing hockey anymore.
So why don't we dive into the week ahead? I know we do have a game on Tuesday against the Ottawa Senators. I haven't taken a peek outside of, or any further than that. I'm pretty sure there's a couple more Atlantic Division games, if I'm not mistaken. But we can jump into that and get us on out of here.
Ottawa, hey. That's their Stanley Cup right there.
Ottawa's, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
If it is in Toronto, I like the Leafs, and if it's in Ottawa, I also like the Leafs.
Oh, well.
Both of them are home games.
I've done this now like a couple weeks in a row where I keep being like, they're going to lose every game and they're going to be terrible. But honestly, like, it would be too easy for them to be terrible. They're going to be mid. So I'm trying to think. I'm going to say an overtime loss to the Senators with, some things to take from. Like, I bet they cook up another power play goal or, something happens that's good. Maybe they win the deserve to win. They'll win the deserve to win a meter and they'll lose in overtime.
I'm gonna
What do
say
we-
I think Matt Knies is gonna have a strong out against Ottawa. I don't think there's really anyone that matches up well against him. Um,
Brady
and I
Tkachuk.
think, yeah, but in different ways. Like we saw Matt Kachuk run through someone like Uri Slavkovsky against the Montreal game, completely line him on the railroads. Like Brady Kachuk, yeah, he's a bit of a scrapper, but I think like fighting for pucks and positioning, like again on the defensive side for the Canadian or for the Senators, I just don't see anyone out muscling him in that front that much. In the corners,
He's been incredible.
yeah, he's been great. So I'm gonna take Toronto. I'm gonna take the Leafs. I'm gonna go 4-1.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 4-1. I don't know. We don't know who's in net yet, but I expect those goaltenders to really continue on. And even if one slips, I think there's enough healthy competition there that, let's say Stolarz makes a slip and Joseph Woll gets a good run. It's only good for the fans and the team overall.
Okay. So you've got him winning. I've got him losing in overtime. What do we have next on the schedule?
I gotta take a quick peek. I think it is. I don't know if there's a back-to-back this week.
There
which
is.
There is again.
Yeah.
Great. So we go then to Wednesday. Yeah, it'd be the Capitals. The 10-4-0 Capitals. Alex Ovechkin on a great goal scoring pace, which I didn't really expect to see at this stage of his career. I thought he would just kind of decline, but play a bunch of like 3 or 4 more seasons to break Gretzky's record. There's a good chance he gets it done this year or early next season. He's only 32 behind the great one now.
Wild pace. I'm gonna say, yeah, and I can't open my browser right now, but just go look up like his stats against the Leafs. I'm gonna say Ovi scores 2 against the Leafs, but the Leafs win. And I'm gonna say that Pierre-Luc Dupublic skate puts up nothing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So on the goaltending, I think it kind of depends who's going to be in net for the Capitals. So right now, it's kind of the tale of two. Really, I don't even know why this is even playing a tandem right now. So Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson both have 7 games played. Charlie Lindgren right now is rocking a 3-4 record with a 2.76 goals against average and 0.897 save percentage.
Whoa.
Whereas Logan Thompson is 7-0, a 2.55 goals against average and a 0.91. So I like I like the odds of the Leafs winning against Capitals with Lindgren in net, more so than Logan Thompson. I don't know. So also heads up right now. Washington's got the 29th ranked power play at 12.5%, 4th ranked penalty kill, and a much higher, actually, almost over a goal higher in goals for per game than the Leafs right now. So I think that'll be a good game. I think this is a game where we actually might have a larger discrepancy with what we see without Auston Matthews in the lineup. I actually quite like the Capitals in this matchup, especially because they will not be on the second half of back-to-back on that one. So I'm going to give that one to the Capitals. That'd be a game that, like much so like the Minnesota Wild one, where I would be pleasantly surprised and happy with 1 point out of that one. And then we get to the one that matters. The battle of the mix. McDavid versus McMahon on Saturday.
Is McDavid back in the lineup?
I believe he is, yes.
I'm gonna say Toronto takes that one. The Oilers don't look woken up yet, And I think the way that they've played to start the year, I think the Leafs take that one. Not to say that, the Oilers are bad or anything like that, but we haven't seen them at their best at all yet.
Oilers are much like the Leafs of the last couple of years, where if they have any goalie that's north of .900, they're winning a lot of games. But right now, they're struggling to get a save. They have Stuart Skinner right now, who's got a .883, and Calvin Pickard, who's got a .886. They really are just dying to get some saves there. But Leon Draisaitl, in the absence of Connor McDavid, really helped, I think, calm the storm. That could have gotten a lot uglier than what it did. So we'll see how that happens. Like, even Edmonton's kind of dying for a bubble to pop for them too, because they've got the 26th ranked power play right now, only 15.8%, and a power play with those kind of guns on them. Evan Bouchard's got a hell of a shot. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, I mean, hello, those guys are fantastic. Zach Hyman was scored over 50 goals last year, and I think he's just finally got up to 4 or 5 at this point. So they're definitely due. But I will say, if Auston Matthews is in the lineup for that Edmonton game, the Leafs have always matched up really well against the Oilers going back to the COVID season.
Yep.
So, like, I like the Leafs on that one, too. A couple days to rest up. Hockey Night in Canada game in Toronto. Give me the Leafs on that one. Give me the Leafs.
Yeah, I'll say the Leafs if Matthews is back. I really don't like the idea of Max Domi matching up against McDavid at center. I think if that's the situation, I think you might see an Oilers win there, and that might be the wake-up game the Oilers need. But if Matthews is back in the lineup and feeling good, then I could, like you said, I agree. The Leafs have always matched up against them really well. I'll take the Leafs if Matthews is in the lineup.
Absolutely. And another fun one to look for on Saturday night will be the 14-1 Jets against the 11th 3-1 Panthers. That could be a very, very fun game to watch.
The 14 and Leafs,
Yeah, 14 Leafs and 0. Nick gave me a handful of shit on that one. But that should do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Vaughter, thanks so much for joining. Mikey, thanks for being here and hosting. Like, subscribe, tune in. If you haven't already, check in on Nick's landing strip that he does after every Jets game. It's a lot of fun. I've called in a couple times. Not the biggest.
I've never called in
on that one.
I don't think I've never called in.
No, you got to try.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing it. And take care. And we'll be back next week.
You guys take care.
This has been a Top Line Media production.